Happy 2023, Matt.
Happy 2023, Steve. We're in Santa Clara,
California. We're actually in the world, no, maybe not the world headquarters. We're in the U.S. headquarters of Hillstone Networks.
Hillstone Networks.
And we are here.
Who is Hillstone Networks?
Hillstone is a leading cybersecurity company.
Yes.
They help protect
companies of all sizes around
companies
the
of all
world.
sizes.
And they're interesting because, while there are a lot of very point solutions, Hillstone is the name Hillstone Networks implies, right? Kind of protects at the outer edge of the environment, right? And
Absolutely. Before we talk about Hillstone, before we talk about cybersecurity, we should introduce ourselves. We are kicking off for 2023 a new series, Cybersecurity Techtalks. We're going to produce this monthly. I'm Steve McDowell, Principal Technology Analyst at More Insights and Strategy. And my partner is
Matt Kimball, also a Principal Analyst and VP at More Insights and Strategy. So you cover storage typically, I cover compute.
And then we kind of meet in the middle around data and other things.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, right?
It's interesting, and I love this series because cybersecurity, in every survey of CIOs, CEOs, and certainly IT administrators, protecting an organization's data, protecting the integrity of mission critical workloads, always ranks right up at number one. It's big business.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's all about data, right? And this is the data driven era, and this protecting that data from ne'er-do-wells, right? Whether it's a nation state, a hacking group, or cyber criminals, is without a doubt the top priority. And it's something where when you talk to CIOs and CTOs and even COOs and CEOs, there's a myriad of priorities they have when it comes to managing the enterprise. What is always top of the list though is security.
Is security. Yeah. And there's different types of securities, but it's impactful. It costs organizations by one analyst projection, is it $10 trillion by 2025?
That's the cost of cyber attacks by the year 2025. Globally will be $10 trillion. So Gartner says, but that's kind of that's the impact, right?
That's the impact.
What companies are trying to do is, when you look at the numbers, I think in 2022, Gartner says that the global spend on cybersecurity and risk management was somewhere in the neighborhood of $172 billion,
That's
right?
Incredible.
And it's going to go up to 260 something billion by 2025. That is huge, right? Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, right? Because you think about the average enterprise, and we have some guests that are going to come in and talk about this, but average enterprise out there has 45 security products in place in-house, right? And those security products, none of them integrate. There are so many gaps in their security strategies. Right. 1,400 products on the market. How do you figure out what to get for your specific needs?
It's like you're plugging different holes in the leaking dam.
Yeah, but you don't have anything,
and
no connective tissue underneath to protect that, right? So 2022, we talk about spend. Think about this. Some of the biggest names you can think of, right? Country of Costa Rica, hacked. Twitter, hacked. Neopets, hacked. Neopets was hacked, and the hacking lasted 18 months before they discovered it.
That's incredible.
Right? These are huge, impactful attacks that have taken place. 2023 is going to be no worse, right? Mm-hmm. By some estimates, you'll see, I think it's 2,200 attacks per day, taking place in the world. So every 30 seconds or so, you're going to see an attack.
And these are all different kinds of attacks.
Yeah.
So not just ransomware, which we love to talk about, but very network-driven attacks.
That's right.
Network-based denial of service attacks approached 15 million in 2020.
Yeah, 15.5 million.
Yeah. That's incredible number.
It's incredible.
And the place to stop those sorts of attacks is at the network edge.
Yep. And while all this is going on, 3.5 million open cybersecurity jobs around the world. So all of these issues going on, companies are spending more and more money. Mm-hmm. They're more susceptible to attacks, and they don't have the people to come in and provide solutions. So how do you find holistic solutions that, and a company or a group of companies that can come in and really drive you through the people, process, product kind of implementation of security? How do you do that?
Right. And I like that you said it's a worldwide problem. It really is. We tend to talk about these in very U.S.-centric terms as analysts, but the problem really exists globally.
Yeah. So that's what makes this interesting, right? So we have a couple of folks on today that I'm really excited to have.
Who do we have on, Matt?
Well, we have Steve and Matt, but more importantly, we have smart guys, not just good-looking guys. we have Dawid Krolica, who is the territory manager for Eastern Europe, based in Poland.
For Hillstone.
For Hillstone. Thank you, for Hillstone, who has some really kind of upfront experience in what's going on in Eastern Europe with regard to the state of the cybersecurity world. And then we have Manuel Acosta in Mexico. And Mexico is interesting as well, right? Because while you see a lot of standards developing across the EU and across Europe and the US, Mexico's a little bit freer. So Manuel brings a very interesting perspective around, seeing companies that don't have a lot of standards necessarily to live by, but have to kind of figure it out and make do and make best. So it's going to be really fun to have these folks join us and chat.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hey, so guys, let's just kick this off, and jump right in. So, Dawid, we'll start with you. Eastern Europe, you do everything from Poland to the Ukraine to Czechoslovakia. I mean, you cover a lot of territory, right? EU and non-EU states. You got NIST out there, NIS, not NIST in the US. You have NIST 2 that took place in 2020, or that goes into effect in 2023. Of GDPR in the UK. What are you seeing? With all these standards, do you see more security taking place, or is it a less secure world?
Well, we should back to the, I believe, quite tremendous years ago when looking from the top on the whole Eastern Europe bloc, when we just get rid of the communism time, we start to be as all Eastern bloc. We try to speed up with building the networking itself. So it was a huge investment to speed up and to have a connectivity in between the countries, in the countries as well, to connect everything and everywhere. Yeah? So this was definitely the time to build the network. And after all the investments which was granted by the European government, after when we joined the European Union, it was very good time to build everything. But at the same time, nobody cared about the security and the cybersecurity. I remember the times when I was working for the biggest economic university in Warsaw, and we faced lots of DDoS attacks coming as exercises from a different university across the whole world. And it was, as I said, exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, what we are seeing is that the DDoS is going to be a tool to exclude someone from the connectivity, to give the impression that there is someone who can do some really bad things into your business, into your information flows and business flows and so on. Mm-hmm. So this is the main difference, how the network, how the internet, how everything looks many years ago, right after everything was set up, and how it looks now. The resources and the tools, which was used just for the science,
yep,
now is used against, I would say, and in many cases against us, unfortunately. And we are trying to find a way how to detect and somehow protect ourselves to be ready, because if you will realize that right after our eastern border is a war,
mm-hmm,
then you realize that we are always, almost immediately, under attack based on the cybersecurity issue.
Yeah.
Because we are helping Ukraine, because the US government, a European government helping Ukraine as well.
Yeah.
And Russia is not able to, fight against us based on the number of soldiers or heavy equipment. But definitely they are able and they are doing that on daily basis, fighting against our business, our healthcare information, just to steal something and so on. Of course, it's a very long topic. We can elaborate this in more details on different levels, but in terms of the whole market, I believe it's similar and it's more or less the same. So everybody is spending lots of money on the cybersecurity right now, because based on the numbers which you presented at the beginning of the meeting is exactly the same. Just have in mind that the numbers which you present are not reflecting customers who pay to the hackers tremendous amount of money, because nobody will publish that information.
That's right.
So this is another number which is, I would say, higher.
So that's an interesting point that you bring up, because when folks think about the EU and they think about Europe in general, there's an understanding that there are a lot of regulation that goes into place in trying to set standards around security, set baselines, measure to those baselines. But what gets lost is the fact that you are under, especially given the geopolitical situation going on in Eastern Europe, you are under constant attack from a nation state that is, frankly, one of the best at cyber attacking on a daily, on a minute-by-minute basis. So while all of this investment is being made, and sometimes the money you pay to protect, especially with nation states, doesn't mean anything. They don't care about money, right? They're trying to disable critical infrastructure. So your challenges are exponentially higher, I think, to some degree than what we see here in the U.S. And it differs from what we see in Mexico, correct, Manuel? I mean, you have a different set of challenges you face in Mexico and across Latin America. Is that true?
That's true. In fact, as you said, all cyber attacks in Latin America are growing a lot at alarming rates, and Mexico is not an exception. And this is because some of the reasons you already mentioned. Cyber criminals have monetized the attacks and continue to profit from them. And although the culture of cybersecurity has grown, as well the need to rely on certain industry standards, not all the institutions are forced to comply with them, and that leaves these many institutions vulnerable to hackers, and this is because many governments in Latin America don't see the technology as an enabler for better service for the community, and that makes them not invest enough in cybersecurity for national states. In fact, some of them don't have a cybersecurity plan or state cybersecurity plans.
It's interesting. So, do you see that as a cybersecurity professional residing in Mexico and servicing these companies? Do you find that dynamic, the lack of standards, makes companies more lax about security, or does it make them more, it sounds like more lax, but if I were a CISO or a security professional at an organization, I would maybe be more vigilant because I know I have no standards to live by, so I kind of have to figure it out for myself. Almost Darwinistic,
Obviously, most of the private companies, especially financial companies, are relying on cybersecurity standards, and they follow it. They have the budget enough to spend in this kind of frameworks. But the thing that the government don't obligate the institution to comply with them, obviously make them vulnerable. And obviously there is a lack of specialized professional in cybersecurity, and this is another thing that can help institutions or states to have experience to protect versus cyber criminals.
So you see that lack of experience, and I'm guessing in Eastern Europe as well. Y'all are seeing that lack of, there just aren't enough people that have enough knowledge to really secure a a network.
Yeah. Yeah, so the CISP, the certification, is very, I would say, in short term available to certify. And the position itself, like CSO, Chief Security Officer,
Yep.
it is as well not really from the long term already established on the market. What we see in Eastern Europe, definitely the government made decision that in each critical institution related to the government, there the chief security officer should be there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first point, which is a good step because there will be a person who will take cover any kind of issue related to the cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
He will build the team of the specialists who will take cover about the policy. You mentioned about the GDPR. We have the same here in the whole Europe. We have the same regulation, and we are trying to follow it, especially in terms of all the critical data related to your first name, last name, and many other things related to this one. And you mentioned about NIST, which is the book of standard, especially for the critical infrastructure in each country across the European Union, which after, when we realized, even during the COVID time, we realized that the number of attacks are growing dramatically, because you can realize that if someone lost a job, he will sit at home, he will, or at least from the numbers perspective, he or she, doesn't matter right now, think, okay, let's find another thing what I can do. Why to not jump into the nasty black hat or red hat, the teams, and try to get the money from different resources.
Yeah.
So the number of attackers after the COVID time dramatically up.
So we talk about, the number of attacks are increasing, but they're also gaining in complexity. When you look at the cybersecurity teams within IT organizations, are they able to keep up with the sophistication of the attacks, or are they struggling? Where do you see the challenge there?
It's a very open question, because we have to talk about different companies. If you take a look at the government situation, besides all the regulation which we talk about, the NIST and the GDPR and many other certifications which are required, is still as a human problem, human-related problem, like lack of personnel. Yeah? If the institution, like a government organization, don't have enough people to work or enough knowledge, they will face the issue even if they will, spend lots of money for the equipment. So then we are starting to think about how our solution should help such customers and reduce complexity of analyzing what is going on in their network. If the attack is really the attack, or it is just a false positive. And this is definitely what we are focusing on now, because with the technology like XDR, which Gartner is telling that this is exactly the approach which the cybersecurity company should follow, to collect all data from all the devices, from all the end devices and users and computers and everything, more or less like a big data, and then take the advantage to exclude any kind of issue related to the cybersecurity. And this is definitely what cannot be done easily by the human. Because data is just too much.
Too much.
And the time when you will make any kind of decision about the risk. So first is see. If you've seen the risk and if you've seen the potential issue, then you have to think about how to exclude it. So this is the next step, to have tools to remove potential fraud from your network. And this is another point where not all the customers yet, or not all the people around with whom we are talking, they know that the next generation firewalls as a product which is already established on the market more than 10 years is not enough. It's just not enough. And not all they know about it. We have proofs that based on our test statistics and based on information from the customers which are sharing that data, even the high-end solution available from the vendors which Gartner shows as leaders, it is not enough to have only next generation firewalls. Because it's just not possible to collect everything in one box and make the right decision on the right time.
Manuel, what about you down in Mexico and across LATAM? Do you see the as Steve talked about, the increase in complexity? Do you find that as David talks about in Eastern Europe, do you find that similarly companies are not able to kind of keep up with this deluge?
I agree with that. Most of the companies have several security solutions, and obviously all of them don't have enough people who have experience to manage all these kind of solutions. So in fact, we come from security models based on prevention, which means to integrate multiple security solutions for every vector they have. So the next step in as a security strategy must be integrate advanced threat visibility as well as automation, as David said. And this is important because now we know that cyber criminals leaves IOCs, indicators of compromise. And these kind of technologies based on machine learning or artificial intelligence can help us to identify IOCs in real time. And this can help us to prevent the attack explode. Obviously, this solution, this visibility solution can be integrated with the prevention solution devices, and this can help to block or to block subsequent action that by attackers. Something like, blocking command and control websites before the botnet try to communicate with the hacker, or isolating some compromised devices, etc., will help a lot. So I really believe and it's happening. And most of the companies and organizations in Latin America, especially Mexico as well, need this kind of solution. They need to integrate visibility or threat visibility and automation technology. And it is where XDR solutions are very important solution that can help this company with the lack of a specialized professionals.
Well, we're going to get into XDR in a second here, in a couple minutes, but I think you both bring up a very interesting point. And David, you brought it up in context of private companies in Eastern Europe, and Manuel, you brought it up in LATAM. The fact that companies are willing to throw more money at the problem in absence of being able to find more people. But what we also find is, even though I throw more money at the problem, it doesn't necessarily solve my problems. That's where XDR comes into play. But it's a fully integrated security strategy that is part product, part people, part process. Right? I've got to find the right products. I've got to integrate them. I've got to train my people, and I have to constantly pressure test or penetration test my environment. Red team, blue team operations, right? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it's a process. It's security, like with our on that side. Yeah, it's like this process will never end. Yeah, it's
Right.
not like you will run the Wi-Fi and you just forget because from daily basis it's working.
Right.
Yeah, or switches or routers. No, it's you can expect, or you should expect,
Yes.
that someone can hack you.
Yes.
You should not, of course, I don't want to say that we should not sleep because of that, but we should just have at the back of our head that this is the process which is constantly moving forward. And the solution, the people, and the trainings is like three fundamental things. Like, there was no phishing like years ago.
Right.
Yeah? Now we have a tremendous number of people who was catched by
Yes.
phishing.
Yep.
And this is another level. We have a discussion about power plant in Ukraine years ago. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
When, because of the human factor, they hacked,
Yep.
not because of attack from outside. No, because they found the person who was able to go into the power plant with the USB and pull in the special code which bring the hole for the security solution and allowed someone from outside to connect into the critical environment. Yeah, so this is another level. Yeah, and we have such option and such behavior we see right now. It's a less number of attacks like attacks which are, I'm not sure if this will be right wording, but usually the full cyber kill chain mechanism is like the bots, the robots
Yep.
are looking for the hole. Yeah?
Yeah.
So this is like, I don't know, right now like 50% of the whole internet traffic.
Yeah.
If they will find something, then most probably someone who is as a human will start to dig deeper.
Yep.
And find a way how go deeper.
Yep.
Like Manuel mentioned about some compromise computer devices, IoT devices, whatever, in the network, which will not be isolated on time,
Yeah.
can bring a higher risk. And what you guys mentioned about the ransomware, which is like, we talk a lot about ransomware, but
Yeah.
at the end, such attack will end up with ransomware.
That's right.
And most probably it will be 0 day.
That's right.
So no one will detect it.
Yeah.
And then a hacker will call on the to the CSO and will say, you will pay, or I will remove all your computers based on the Active Directory credential and based on the golden ticket attack,
Yeah.
all your computers from the Active Directory. So this is the way how I would say, new approach attackers.
It's funny, David, because in some ways that's a better outcome than a nation state attack, right? If I know, I hate to say it, but if I can pay somebody $10 million to get my data back and get back to a pristine state, that's better than, say, a nation state disabling critical infrastructure. They're not interested in financial gain. They're interested in hurting me. There is no way out for me as an organization. One of the biggest, you talk about the power plant in the Ukraine, the largest attack against the US government it happened based out of Afghanistan. Somebody left a little USB key in a parking lot in Afghanistan on a military base. A curious person took it, put it into the computer. 18 to 24 months later, hundreds of millions of records were stolen. This company these hackers didn't care about getting money. They cared about stealing nation secrets, right? And that's a lot scarier than simply a financial loss. And then, do you see a lot of that down in
Well,
LATAM, or is it more?
I see that attackers are going down with the priority. I would say with the priority from my perspective, like they're stopped to be such involved into the high government side or banking side. They start to bother the companies like milk production.
Yeah. Right.
So
That is
you are
critical.
just thinking milk production to attack milk production company, or the logistic company, for example.
Yeah.
And then you realize that the company which was established like 30 years ago has no security solution at all.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't matter if it's logistic company, if it's milk production company, food production company, whatever production company.
Yeah.
That they all are under potential attack.
Well, they're all critical.
And what they will say when they will realize, because they will don't have acknowledged that someone hacked them at the beginning.
Yeah.
They will receive a phone that something is not working. But they will not have a data about that this is an attack. When they will be paralyzed, like they will have no option to work like for 2, 3, 5, 600 computers in the company. They will start to think what they should to do. And this is another point. We mentioned about 3, like a human technology trainings. So this is another point. The point where the companies don't have something like policy, what I will do when I will be hacked.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
like
and going
disaster recovery plan.
And going through the active, we talk about red team, blue team exercises, right?
Yep.
But getting a simulated exploit and how you respond to that. You're right. Steve, you wanted to say something? Did you want to?
Well, no, I was just going to build on the point around critical infrastructure and edge, right? In some sense, these are very low-hanging fruit for attackers, right? IT organizations are still trying to understand, right, how edge integrates in. Right. One of the statistics we found before we came onto this call was the number of attacks against edge and IoT has more than tripled over the past 18 months. Solution to that is really a network-based. Good.
And so let's tie that into Manuel. So Manuel, you're in Mexico. What other folks in the world might not know is Mexico has a huge agricultural output. It provides North America with a lot of its fruits and vegetables and foods. It's a huge manufacturing center in North America. You provide a lot of the goods and products that are consumed in U.S. and Canada. So I have to think that this whole notion of edge and IoT and you think about smart factories and the such are prime opportunities for a hacker that's looking to make a lot of money to go attack. Do you see that, and do you talk to these companies, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure if I've seen a lot of attacks to this kind of supply chain, but it's a reality. Since critical infrastructure is connected to the IT networks, most of this infrastructure is a goal for cyber criminals, and we are seeing most of these attacks to the state critical infrastructure, electricity, oil and gas, etc. But since in Mexico it's not an obligation to say that the private companies were hacked, maybe we don't have a lot of information about it. But I believe most of them are receiving attacks for sure. And we need to understand that the ultimate goal from the cyber criminals is to obviously steal relevant information, to steal identities, personal identities, and most of the time they compromise many computers or many of the network infrastructure in order to generate different types of legal services, such pornography websites, websites, to crypto mining, and DDoS attacks or cybercrime as a service. No?
Yeah.
And they are taking, or they are using that. And understanding this is how many of the companies can create their strategies. No? And as you and David said, cybersecurity strategy is not only to buy products. No? They have to train the people all the time.
Yeah.
If the people know more about cybersecurity, or if we increase our security awareness in all the people, we will be more prepared for this kind of situation. No? Because the cyber criminals started trapping a user. No?
Yeah.
We know that.
You know, it's funny because I love the, and you both have talked about this, I love the symbol that Hillstone Networks has been using, the infinite loop with the red and blue, right? Because it is a reminder, right, that, you know, a security approach, it is truly a never-ending, as you both said, a never-ending exercise. So kind of walk us through, you mentioned XDR a little bit earlier. Walk us through, I'd like to hear, and we'd like to hear from both of you, from an Eastern Europe perspective, from a Mexico and Latin America perspective, kind of how your approach is with, you know, customers, potential customers, in driving, you know, cyber resilience, not just buy my product and implement it, but really achieve a cyber resilient environment. How does that happen? Is it a very consultative approach? You know, is it Hillstone and Company, or is it Hillstone and Partners and Company? How does all that work?
Well, here it's the path or the road for implementation of XDR. It's a pretty new approach. Even Gartner is telling that. Gartner changed the name of the Magic Quadrant to XDR because previously it was like several solutions. One was related to blocking the attacks. Second was related to analyzing that there is in reality attack. And right now everything is combined, so it should be easier from the security operational center to have such solution in one place, especially when the needs coming from the market is that such solutions should receive all the logs from all the security solution. Yeah? So you can imagine that the simple firewall in the mid-sized company can generate lots of logs. You will not be able to review all the logs.
Right.
When you are looking for some specific issue, which is not named yet. Yeah. Right. So you need the data from the whole network, from the whole solution, with some intelligence, which Manuel already mentioned, like machine learning, so like mathematical algorithms, and statistics, which is coming from the normal working infrastructure. And if something is not working as a normal, it means that we should take over and have a look on it. Based on the real data which is trustable and on time. Yeah? So this is exactly how the XDR should work. Collect data from all the security solution, review, maybe made the decision on blocking some potential trolls, especially when several solution is confirming that the troll is really there, to avoid the situation when we will block, you know, some regular normal traffic, which is just unexpected in some specific area. So this is exactly where the customers will look in the next, I believe, 2-3 years from now, because what we see now, the customers is starting to think about get rid of the CM technology, security information and event management. This solution, as you mentioned before, is one of the top solutions needed for the company who are under the PCI DSS compliance, like they are handling more than $2 million on the credit card business. So they have to have such solution there. But right now, it's not enough. It's just not enough solution. The solution as a CM is pretty old, and the XDR is definitely something which will exchange that technology in a bit longer time than we predict. Why a bit longer? Because these solutions are expensive. That's the first thing. Usually vendor is looking that solution should be in cloud. So you will have all the security information in the cloud. So that's another doubt, which is coming from the Eastern Europe bloc. We like cloud, but for the private use. We like cloud, But if we are talking about cloud for the business, especially security, we are still a bit concerned about it. And definitely Microsoft is helping a lot because pushing the enterprise customers into the cloud. Google do it the same, Amazon and other vendors as well. So this is going to be speed up, but still it's related heavily to the credentials, to personal data, financial data, and everything. Of course, you can exclude it, definitely yes, but you will lost some portion of data which can be, a very important task to make the right decision to block some. So this is definitely, at least how I see and how we feel that in the Eastern Europe region and the CIS region is the same.
So Manuel, are you seeing the same things in Mexico?
Yes, and the organization are tired to work with point solution. So as I said before, the next step in the cybersecurity strategy is visibility and automation. So based on that, at Hillstone, we are offering a cybersecurity architecture that can help customers to integrate different solutions and automate responses. Our visibility solution can help them to identify IOC in real time, and this helps a lot because nobody can protect anything that can see. As you said at the beginning of the conversation, some company takes months or years to identify that they were hacked. So the name of the game right now is the visibility. And this is something that we are offering a lot. And obviously, once you have the visibility, you need to automate the responses. That's why the XDR solutions that David mentioned are very interesting things that many organizations has to take in account.
One of the things I like about Hillstone, there are a lot of companies out there that claim to be best of breed, and they have good products and good technologies, and they go into a company and they sell a point solution and it does a thing very well, right? It protects one element in the whole cybersecurity, framework, right? It does that one thing, and but it gets positioned as this is the one thing you need to secure your environment, and but their environment is bigger than that, right? So there's a little bit of what I like about what you're both saying here at Hillstone is you understand that the security landscape is bigger than just buying a firewall. It's bigger than just buying a piece from a solution from Hillstone, that it's an integrated solution and that companies have to kind of look holistically. And I like the fact that you go in and try and be more consultative with your customers and kind of look at their entire set of needs and address them through yourself and your partners. I love that. And I think that's going to be that's going to lead to a very strong 2023 for Hillstone in your respective territories. With that said, quick kind of wrap on this. 2023 is here. We're in early January. You guys are the experts for Hillstone. Do you have any predictions as to what you think 2023 is going to bring from a cybersecurity perspective or otherwise? I would ask you about the World Cup, but that was 2022, so we can't throw that out there. But any, what do you have for predictions? What do you think is going to happen in 2023?
Well, I really believe that attackers will be growing again. Supply chain attacks will continue. Large-scale data breaches, we see a lot in 2022, and we will continue to see them in this year. Cyber extortion, and obviously malware attacks of ransomware, crypto mining, and other will be the day-to-day for many of our organizations.
Very good. I mean, not good, but thank you. That's not good, but it's good prediction.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, so I fully agree with Manuel. Guys, unfortunately, our roots, our investment is not allowing us to be positive.
Yeah.
The discussion with the customers is coming from the pain points.
Yeah.
Their pain points, which they already know because they was already hacked.
Right.
Or the opposite side, where we have to explain to them what is the risk behind that, where they will be hacked, what will happen.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty uncomfortable situation to ask us how the 2023 will looks like. If I will go back to 2022, at the same time, I will say that the life will be brilliant. Yeah? But next month, the war just starts to be right after the border. Yeah, so it's a pretty strange situation, because now we predict that the war will not be worse than last year, but it means that will not end.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we, because I have the friends, distributors, partners, and the customers in Ukraine. Day by day, I set up some meetings, and I just receive a call. Sorry, David, I cannot attend on the call because the missiles are just came through the street. There is a bomb attack on daily basis there.
Yeah.
So it is not like a real life. They are trying to do the business as they can, as much as they can.
Sure.
Most of them just gone from the country. We take more than 2 million Ukrainians in very short term at the beginning of the war. Right now it's like 5 or 6 million people, which just arrived here in Poland. So for me personally, I definitely would like to see it will be more peaceful than the last year.
Yeah.
But I agreed with Manuel.
Well,
it will not be the same.
Yeah. I would say this, though. I mean, I think one positive thing with the Hillstone, and it's a story you can tell your customers, is, when you talk about these months-long and year-long hacking attacks where, I'm constantly bleeding data from a company, and then I go to them and ask for $50 million US or $100 million US, or else, Hillstone can help in, shortening the time, at least, if not more, to detecting those breaches and allowing a company to act. So there's a real value that you bring to your customers from a critical infrastructure perspective, like in the Ukraine, where power plants and government entities are being hacked every day. There's a real value you bring, and it's a tangible, measurable value you bring and benefit you bring that can't be overlooked. And this is why I think it would be it's a good kind of closing thought for listeners or viewers to kind of consider this.
Absolutely. So we do have to close. We're out of time, but thank you both, Manuel and David, for joining us on the first coffee talk of the year.
What's your prediction, Steve?
my prediction is you and I will be back here again next month for another Cybersecurity Tech Talk.
I think we will be.
Because this problem is far from being solved, but as we learned today, there are a lot of things that we can do to help live more safe lives.
But that's not a prediction. We already have it scheduled, so you can't call it a prediction.
I like a sure thing.